The method for discipleship was always proximity. The method for people growing as sons and daughters in the faith, right? You go back to the Old Testament when in Deuteronomy, God is giving instruction on how to raise up just children in the ways of God. Look at what it says in Deuteronomy 6 to 7. And these words that I command you today shall be on your heart. You shall teach them diligently to your children. Okay, so it's just about teaching but listen to this. Talk of them when you sit in your house, when you walk by the way, when you lie down, and when you rise. God didn't say simply teach a curriculum. He said live a life and let them watch. Notice the setting. God names here: sitting at home, walking along the road, lying down, getting up. These again aren't classroom settings. These are life settings: the kitchen table, the car ride, the early morning, the late night. God is saying that the primary context for spiritual formation is not a scheduled program. It's unscheduled life shared together. This means discipleship is less about what you say on Sunday morning and more about who is in your house on Tuesday afternoon. Jamie, I want to invite my wife up here right now. Her story is more significant than mine in many ways as far as a demonstration of how the church stepped up and discipled. And so I just wanted her to share.
I was thinking about it. I've told this story quite a few times, but I need to keep on telling it because there's people who haven't heard it. And even if you've heard it once, it's still a testimony to God's goodness in my life and how He helped me and saved me. So I just wanted to share with you guys. So when I was about 12 years old, my mom got diagnosed with breast cancer, and it quickly spread to her brain, and she was given only 3 months to live. And during that 3 months, it was a pretty rapid decline where she was just in bed, and me and my brother would be out in the alley playing, being totally unsupervised. We were eating basically peanut butter sandwiches the whole time. And this lady who we were playing with her sons, her son became really good friends with my brother. And she was like, why are these kids over at my house all the time? Where are their parents? Like, where do they live? So she decided to ask. And she turned to my brother and said, where's your parents? Like, where do you guys live? And my brother just like dead-faced just said, my mom's at home and she's dying with cancer. And that just tore up our neighbor. Her name was Sherilyn Lefevre. And what she could have done in that moment was like, oh, I'm so sorry that happened to you. But no, she decided, you know what? I'm going to go over there and meet that mother because I need to make sure she knows Jesus. So Sherilyn went over and she knocked on my door, and my mom came out, bald head, totally sick, and she got to know my mom. She prayed with her and she led her to Jesus. And my mom was so excited to know Jesus that she said to Sherilyn, she said, please promise me when I pass that you'll take my kids to church so that they can know Jesus too. So went to church, and I was really upset. Like, my mom was my world. My dad was kind of missing a lot. He was working. He was also very abusive, had isolated my mom from her family. He was an alcoholic, bipolar. He had so many issues himself. And I remember actually before my mom died, when I found out my mom was dying, I prayed that God would take my dad instead of my mom, because I just wanted my mom, who was my angel, my life, to stay with me. So when my mom died, everything in my life crumbled. To be with my dad, he didn't know what he was doing. He was struggling with suicide himself. He was really upset. But Sherilyn stepped up. She goes, you know what? I made a promise. I'm taking those kids to church. And in fact, she befriended my dad. And she would tell my dad, Patrick, if you don't know Jesus, you're going to go to hell. You better ask him. And he would go, oh, okay, whatever, Sherilyn. And Sherilyn kind of became our secondary caretaker. Every day after school, we'd go to her house. We'd have dinner. She made room at her table for us. And then my dad would pick us up, usually around 8 or 9, and we'd go to bed. But we were literally staying our whole time with Sherilyn and her family. And I remember the first time Sherilyn brought me to church, I went in on a Sunday morning, and I don't know, it was definitely the Holy Spirit because I just felt really emotional and stuff. But I remember walking in, and I'm kind of nervous. I've never been there before. I didn't even know anything about Jesus at all. I didn't know about him dying on the cross for us or anything like that. And so I walked in, I didn't know what to expect with church, and I had all these people slowly coming up to me, giving me hugs, saying, welcome, welcome, you're Jamie, we've been praying for you. I remember this old lady grabbing my hands and saying, we've been praying for you. And she goes, I'm your grandma, Grandma Pazine. And I was like, what? Like, I have a grandma? Like, I didn't even know about this. Another one came up to me, I'm Grandma Green. Grandma Green gave me a quilt that Christmas, just out of her heart, like her loving heart, to give me a little pink quilt that I still remember today. All these ladies would come up to me and say, I'm your aunt, I'm your grandma. They welcomed me into the church as their family. They made room for me at their tables. I went over to their house several times. One of my dear friends, Blanche Green, Blanche tells you how old she was. She was an older lady, and she would have me come over, and she'd say, Jamie, do you want to come over for tea? I've never had tea before as a teenager. I was 13, probably could care less about tea. I was like, sure, that sounds awesome. I'd love to come to your house for tea. She'd have me over, and we'd have tea, and we'd talk about life. She'd listen to me and what I cared about and the things that mattered to me. And then she would talk to me about Jesus. I remember one day at her house, over tea, she asked me, Jamie, do you want to accept Jesus into your life? What? What does that even mean? Of course, like, I'm already on board with this whole Jesus and church thing. This seems good. It's fun. I like it. I feel welcomed. I love this is my family. Of course, sure, I'll do that. And I remember her grabbing my hand, and she said the sinner's prayer with me right in her kitchen. And I remember right then being filled with the Holy Spirit. I felt the wind brush my hair. It was like physical, you guys, like my hair was moving, and I felt chills and everything. And after we were done the prayer, I said to her, was that like, did an air conditioning unit or something turn on? What happened? And she looked at me all confused, and then she said, Jamie, that was the Holy Spirit. And that moment, I felt the Holy Spirit. I felt him so real to me. I remember she took me to Sherilyn's house. She had me knock on Sherilyn's door and tell Sherilyn that I was going to heaven now and that I was a part of the family. And Sherilyn told me that my mom had accepted Jesus too, just a week before she passed. And so now I'd get to see my mom when I go to heaven too. And that meant so much to me, and I continued to be discipled and grow, but it was all because multiple people came into my life from that church and said, you know what? You're a part of my family now. I'm your grandma. I'm your sister, and they would take me out, even just the mundane things. They would say, Jamie, I'm going grocery shopping. Do you want to come? And I was just a bored, lost teenager, and I thought, yeah, let's go. And we would do their weekly grocery shopping and talk about Jesus, and they would pour into me in those moments. And every little moment like that, over tea, over a hug on a Sunday morning, over a grocery shopping trip, or even, I remember one dear friend who was an older girl, she helped me learn to dye my hair. Over those silly moments, God spoke to me, and I was discipled in those moments. And it was just because they invited me into their family and made their tables larger. And I know oftentimes we get so I think it's our Canadianness. We get where we just want to be like one arm away. Want to give a kid a hug or a high five, but we also don't want to open our doors too much or inconvenience ourselves. And was I an inconvenience? I probably was. I was an annoying teenager. I talked a whole lot. I still do. And at times, I probably didn't act the right way all the time. But yet, all those people opened their homes to me and opened their hearts to me. So I just want to encourage you guys, because that's what they were talking about at convention, about sons and daughters. And how are we going to grow the church? How are we going to minister to the next generation? It's by pouring in and inviting people into our tables. So expanding our tables, inviting them to sit, pulling out the leaf in your table at home and saying, come have dinner with me. Come do grocery shopping with me. I'm picking weeds in the backyard. You want to come help and we can talk about Jesus? Whatever it is, right? Don't use them as a slave, okay? But really invite them into your life for the daily things. We think it has to be something so special, like a nice 5-course dinner or something like that. And it was just people bringing me into their lives, just a daily moment, living out their lives. And I got to see them, and I got to see them how they really worship Jesus in the normal days too. And that showed me, like, I can't be just a Christian on Sunday mornings. I need to be a Christian every single day, Monday to Friday, Monday to Sunday.